Hello?
Oh, yes.
I am speaking right now.
Hey everybody, I brought my dog Scrutchy today because we're doing a segment on animal communication, and I would love to know what Scrutchy's thinking and what he's saying, and with AI, we're getting closer to that happening. So I'm really excited about this show, and this one's called AI is Learning to Talk to Animals, and they're talking back from Absolute Agentic. I saw this one already, and I thought, oh, I got to bring this to my audience. These guys are going to love this. Who doesn't have a pet? You got a cat, you got a dog, you got a horse, you got something, and you just want to know how to communicate with them. What would that be like? It would be fantastic, right? So I see YouTube videos with huskies, and they're just so bright, and they're throwing temper tantrums. I think it's because hey, you humans, you can't understand me. What's wrong with you? I just think they're super smart. And a lot of animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. I knew a crow when I was growing up. He hurt his wing and he was at the Humane Society in New Jersey and out of the Great Swamp. And he could talk. He could say hello and he'd put his head down so you could pet him. Dolphins, horses, same thing. They have their own way of communicating. And if AI can help us with that, fantastic. Without me blabbing too much, let's get to this and let's see what this guy's got for us.
Hey, human. When are you going to get my food?
You've got food.
Not dry food, wet food. I want meat.
What would it actually be like if you could speak to your cat or dog, or any other pet you might have?
It'd be fantastic.
Every day, millions of us try to have conversations with our pets. And at some point, you've probably looked at your pet and genuinely wondered, what are you actually thinking right now? Now, due to AI, we might be closer to finding out than you think. Over the past decade, researchers have been using artificial intelligence to decode animal communication. The goal is something like a Google Translate for the animal kingdom. In this video, I want to explore what scientists are actually discovering about animal language, how AI is accelerating this research, and what it might mean if we succeed. Because there are some genuinely difficult questions here, both about what animals are capable of and about whether we're prepared for the answers.
I can't stop smiling. I can't. This is just going to be fantastic, right?
For decades, we've celebrated animals that seem to bridge the communication gap.
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just...
Coco the gorilla learned hundreds of sign language words. Alex the parrot could identify colours and shapes. Border collies can memorise the names of hundreds of objects. These are genuine achievements, and they tell us something important about animal cognition. They're all examples of animals learning our communication system, not us learning theirs. As cognitive scientist Federico Rossano argues, if we want real dialogue, we need to communicate on their terms. That means understanding the rich world of animal communication that's been happening all around us, largely invisible to our human senses. Recent research is revealing that animal communication is far more sophisticated than we assumed. Let me give you some examples that genuinely surprise me. Dolphins have signature whistles that function like names. Each dolphin develops their own unique whistle as a youngster, and they can recognise each other's names even after being separated for decades. Marine biologists have recorded dolphin mothers using a special high-pitched version of their calf's whistle to get their attention. Essentially, dolphin baby talk. In 2024, a study published in Nature, Ecology and Evolution used AI to analyse hundreds of African elephant calls. The researchers, led by Mickey Pardo at Cornell University, found that elephants call out to specific individuals using unique vocal labels. These aren't imitations. Elephants appear to invent distinct sound names for their friends and family. The study authors suggest this indicates the ability for abstract thought in elephants. Then there are prairie dogs. Dr. Kon Slobodchikov at Northern Arizona University spent decades studying these rodents and found they have one of the most sophisticated animal languages we've decoded. They don't just have an alarm call for predator. They have specific calls that encode what kind of predator, its size, its speed, and even descriptive details like colour. One call might essentially mean tall human in blue shirt approaching quickly. They're combining descriptive elements in a single vocalization. That's functionally grammar. Even our closest relatives are revealing new complexity. In April 2025, a study in Science led by Dr. Melissa Berthet found that bonobos string together sequences of calls that form phrases with meanings beyond their individual parts. One call means, let's do that. Another means, come here. But combined, they seem to mean something like, let's do this together here, used specifically to smooth over social tensions. Dr. Berthet concluded that human language is not as unique as we thought. That's a claim worth sitting with. If the building blocks of language are shared across species, it changes how we think about our place in the natural world. This is where artificial intelligence enters the picture, and the pace of
How about when we decipher plants talking to each other? Right, I've already read stuff about that, but AI decoding plants talking. They're super critical of us, and they're ornery. Why do these people keep stepping on us?
progress is genuinely striking. Machine learning algorithms excel at finding patterns in large datasets, exactly what decades of animal recordings represent. And they're finding patterns that human researchers missed. Consider bats. Professor Yossi Yavel's team at Tel Aviv University fitted dozens of Egyptian fruit bats with tiny microphones and cameras, collecting 15,000 calls over 2.5 months. When they ran this data through a machine learning algorithm, the AI learned to distinguish different types of arguments. It could predict whether bats were fighting over food, arguing over sleeping spots, or having what the researchers delicately called mating disputes.
So imagine you've got some bats up in your attic, and you can use Google Translate to tell them, look, you have to leave, you have to find another place to live. And you'll have a conversations with the bats. The bats will be like, well, we were here first. We're going to stay. You know, it could escalate. You come to an agreement with the bats. You're going to give them a bag of bugs every year, and you're going to build a house outside on the tree for them if they will move out. And you come to some sort of agreement with the bats. Everything is going to be a negotiation with each animal. Pretty cool, right?
The AI could even identify which specific bat was speaking and their social status by detecting acoustic features too subtle for human researchers to notice. Sperm whale research is even more ambitious. Project SETI, the Cetacean Translation Initiative, has been using deep learning to analyse sperm whale clicks. These whales communicate in patterns called coders, somewhat like Morse code. Human researchers had identified 21 different coders in one Caribbean whale class.
When I was a kid, my brothers threw me on a whale carcass in Nantucket. I was taking a walk on the beach. I was a young kid, under 10, on a family vacation, and I came across a huge slab of whale, like a half side of a whale, the blubber, and it was just massive. The sharks were eating it, and it just washed to shore. And I went back home. I was obsessed with whales when I was a little kid. I went back home and told everybody, and they didn't believe me. They're like, oh, John, you're just making that up because you're all into whales. I had a whale book my mom got me, and I just was fascinated. And my grandfather, who was from Norway, had a whale tooth, and he gave me that when I was a little kid. And I was just like, look at the size of this whale tooth. I brought everybody down to the beach. I had 3 older brothers who were all bigger than me. And I was like, see, and they're like, oh my God. And we walked right up to the edge. And they're like, John was right. There is a whale here. And my oldest brother picked me up and threw me on the greasy blubber, and I went sliding across the blubber. I was covered in greasy blubber oil and film. Yeah, that's what it's like having 3 older brothers. Fun.
When AI got involved, it found 156 distinct patterns. The AI detected subtle variations, what researchers call rubato, rhythmic timing changes, and ornamentation, extra clicks, that we'd completely overlooked. Dr. Shane Gero, the project's lead biologist, says this reveals a much richer phonetic alphabet than previously realised. The whales might actually be encoding complex information with these sound units. Several other teams are taking different approaches to this problem. The Earth Species Project, co-founded by technologist Azza Raskin, is developing foundation models. Similar to large language models like GPT, but trained on animal sounds. Their model, Nature LM Audio, is being trained on animal calls alongside human language and music. The idea is that by learning the patterns in human communication, the AI will be better equipped to recognise similar patterns in animal communication. Raskin says their model can already identify species by name from audio, even species it hadn't encountered during training. It's learning the fundamental acoustic patterns that make a crow sound like a crow, the frequency ranges, the rhythm patterns, the structural features. Once it understands these deep patterns from species it has studied, it can recognise when a new recording follows similar rules. Raskin makes this claim: without scale, translating animal communication is impossible. With scale, it is inevitable. Whether that's optimism or prediction remains to be seen. Meanwhile, researchers in Denmark have created what they call a pig translator. They've trained neural networks on over 7,000 pig calls and can now determine a pig's emotional state with 92% accuracy, distinguishing between content grunts and distressed squeals. This could become a smartphone app for farmers, alerting them when animals are stressed. But understanding animals is one thing, responding in a way they understand is another. One of the most remarkable moments in this field happened in August 2013 with Dr. Denise Herzing's Wild Dolphin project. Her team had developed an underwater computer called CHAT, the cetacean, hearing and telemetry, programmed with invented whistle signals for objects dolphins like, one whistle for seaweed, another for rope. During play sessions with wild dolphins, they tried to teach these associations. Then one day, while a diver was wearing the CHAT device, they heard something through the headset. A dolphin had spontaneously produced a seaweed whistle on its own. The device translated it instantly as sargassum. This was the first time an animal in the wild had seemingly used an invented word with a human, meeting us halfway in the communication gap. One word isn't a conversation, but it was proof of concept. Two-way acoustic communication might actually be possible. Some researchers are taking more unconventional approaches. In Europe, scientists built tiny robot bees that can infiltrate hives and perform the waggle dance, the figure-8 pattern bees used to
I want to see these tiny robot bees that this guy mentioned. I don't know why I've never looked that up, but I'm going to look that up.
communicate the location of nectar sources. After years of refinement, their robot bees were accepted by the hive. Real bees started following the robot's instructions to new feeding sites. We've learned to speak bee well enough that actual bees will listen. The implications extend beyond basic research. Drones might issue calming signals to elephant herds to prevent human-wildlife conflict. Underwater robots could signal to whale pods to avoid shipping lanes. On the practical side, Kon Slobochikov, the prairie dog researcher, has founded a company called Zoolingua. They're developing AI that interprets not just dog barks and whines, but also tail wags and ear positions, outputting simple English phrases. Slobochikov envisions pointing your phone at your dog and hearing, "I'm hungry and a bit anxious," or "my shoulder hurts." This isn't purely about satisfying curiosity. Many dogs end up in shelters due to behavioural issues that might actually be pain or anxiety that owners aren't recognising. An AI that could identify "my shoulder hurts" when a dog is whining could lead to early veterinary care. Now, I should pump on the brakes a little bit here. This is genuinely difficult, and I don't want to give the impression we're about to have philosophical debates with our pets about the nature of consciousness. There's a fundamental question we need to consider. Most animal communication evolved for them to talk to each other, not to us. A dolphin probably has zero interest in discussing your day at work. Dr. Herzing, who's spent decades with wild dolphins, emphasises this. We have to be careful not to project our own desires onto animals. Just because we want to know what our dog is thinking doesn't mean our dog wants to share. There's a concept in biology called Umwelt, the idea that every species lives in its own perceptual world. A bee's waggle dance doesn't just convey nectar 100 meters east. It includes the scent of flowers, the angle of the sun, the quality of the food source, layers of meaning that don't translate neatly into human language. Even if we decode what an animal is saying, we might be missing crucial context. Some concepts may simply not translate across species boundaries. There's also a technical challenge. Deep neural networks are often black boxes. An AI might claim that a certain chimp call means "I found food," but verifying that requires playback experiments, playing the calls to other chimps and observing whether they respond as if food is present. This validation is time-consuming and not always feasible, especially for endangered species. And AI needs large amounts of data. Project SETI has been recording sperm whales for years, but what about rare species with small populations? We might never gather enough data to train an AI properly. Then there are ethical implications. What if we say the wrong thing? A clumsy attempt to mimic an elephant's rumble might be the equivalent of a severe insult in elephant society. Playing back tiger calls in the wild could make a tiger think its territory is being invaded. There's also the risk of exploitation. A global survey by the Earth Species Project found that people's biggest fear about this technology is that it'll be used to manipulate animals rather than help them. If a factory farm could understand chickens, would they use it to improve welfare or to optimize production? The survey found that 85% of respondents think there should be strict regulations on companies using AI with animals. Some ethicists are arguing that animals should have rights over recordings of their vocalization. Should a whale own its own song? It sounds kind of absurd, but the question reveals something. If we take animal communication seriously, we may need to take animal interests more seriously too. But what strikes me about this research is that every discovery makes it harder to see animals as undifferentiated masses. When you learn that elephants have names for each other, that dolphins have regional dialects, that bonobos create new meanings by combining calls, it becomes difficult not to see them as individuals with cultures and societies of their own. This has practical consequences. If we can demonstrate that whales are discussing migration routes, or crows are teaching their children about specific dangerous humans, it becomes harder to justify treating them purely as resources. It could bring about a profound change in our attitudes to domesticated animals that we factory farm for our food. In the 1970s, when Roger Payne first played recordings of humpback whale songs to the public, people were so moved that it helped launch the Save the Whales movement. Those songs, without any translation, contributed to banning commercial whaling. Now imagine if a translator could convey a whale saying, "The ocean is too noisy, we can't find each other anymore." Within the next decade, we might have functional translators for certain species. Your phone could tell you what your dog is trying to communicate. Marine biologists might have genuine exchanges with dolphins. Farmers could monitor their animals' emotional states in real time. But the technology is only half the equation. The other half is whether we're prepared to listen. If AI gives animals a voice, it won't just change how we see them. It will change how we see ourselves. We'll no longer be the only minds on this planet that matter. And that's either terrifying or wonderful, depending on how.
Yeah, it's going to be complex. Things will change. I could just see the court system being flooded with different types of cases involving animals. No, this animal said this, and they have rights, and there's going to be some changes. There's definitely going to be changes.
How you look at it. As for my cat, I suspect that conversation would go pretty much
wants meat.
as I imagined it. Mostly demands, occasional contempt, and an absolute refusal to acknowledge that I have any authority whatsoever.
Yeah, dogs will will be getting together and boycotting kibble. Really good video. This guy did a great job. I recommend everybody checking out the last couple of minutes of that. Absolute agentic. AI is learning to talk to animals, and they're talking back. Fascinating stuff, right? Let me know in the comments what you think. Who should we focus on first? You think dogs, because most people have dogs or cats. All the different species loaded into AI, loaded into Google Translate. We can talk to them all. We can finally Dr. Dolittle everybody. That's endless fun. That's a lot more fun than TV. Or you could watch your shows with your pets and they could comment. Turn the channel. Like, turn the channel, please. Say please. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And thanks for coming by, everybody. Subscribe if you're liking the content. Talk to me in the comments. Let me know what you want. What you're thinking of the channel. Are you liking the different shows we do? The other show is is it AI or is it real? A lot of fun. Take a break and look at all the glut of AI videos that are coming out and deciphering. Is this real stuff? Did this gorilla punch this guy in the head? There's a lot of gorilla stuff lately. Check out the other segments on the channel. Let me know what you think. I appreciate everyone's feedback. Go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button. And we'll see everybody in the next video.